Have you ever been struck by a moment so profound, so brimming with raw humanity, that it shattered your preconceived notions of justice? The story I'm about to share unfolded within the stark walls of a Providence courtroom. And believe me, even Judge Frank Caprio, a man who has presided over countless cases and witnessed the full spectrum of human drama, found himself deeply moved. If you believe some secrets are simply too heavy to carry alone, drop a comment below. A teenage girl, barely more than a child herself, entered that courtroom burdened with a weight that no young person should ever have to bear. When she finally found the courage to speak her truth, an almost palpable silence descended upon the room. Her name was Emma Rodriguez, just 17 years old, standing a petite 5 feet 3 inches in her well-worn Converse sneakers and a faded Target jacket that had clearly seen better days. If you believe teenagers deserve more understanding and empathy than they often receive, hit that subscribe button. She clutched a parking ticket in her trembling hands, but that seemingly insignificant piece of paper represented something far greater than a mere traffic violation. It was a symbol of a much larger struggle. If you've ever felt utterly isolated in a crowded room, like the world was pressing in on you, then you have a sense of how Emma looked as she stood before Judge Caprio on that chilly February morning. The Providence Municipal Courtroom was packed that day, filled with people awaiting their turn before the bench. Case number PM 2847 to 2024 appeared rather unremarkable on the court schedule. A 17-year-old cited for parking illegally in a handicap space without a proper permit at Rhode Island Hospital on January 15th, at 2:47 in the afternoon. The fine? $350. For many, that might be an unwelcome inconvenience. But for Emma Rodriguez, it might as well have been $3 million. If you agree that everyone we encounter is fighting a battle we know nothing about, share this with someone. Judge Frank Caprio, a man of 77 years who had overseen an estimated 400,000 cases throughout his long and distinguished career, adjusted his glasses and peered down at the young woman. He had seen it all: arrogance, despair, and everything in between. But there was something about Emma's demeanor, the way she seemed to shrink in on herself as if trying to disappear, that immediately piqued his interest. "Good morning, young lady," Judge Caprio began, his warm Italian-American accent filling the courtroom with a comforting gentleness. "I see here that you are contesting a parking violation. Can you tell me what happened that day?" Emma opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. Her hazel eyes, already red and swollen from crying, welled up with fresh tears. She avoided the judge's kind gaze, instead focusing on her scuffed sneakers, the courtroom floor, anywhere but his face. She could feel the weight of 30 pairs of eyes boring into her back from the gallery behind her, each person waiting for their own case to be called. "Take your time," Judge Caprio said softly, his voice filled with reassurance. "There's no rush here. Nobody's going to hurt you." Court Officer Michael Chun, who had been a fixture by the courtroom door for the past 8 years, noticed Emma's hands trembling so violently that the parking ticket fluttered like a leaf caught in a storm. He had witnessed countless nervous defendants, but this was different, he sensed. This was something deeper, something rooted in trauma. "Tell us about a time when you had to be brave, when you felt weakest," in the comments below. Emma finally managed to speak, her voice barely a whisper. "I know I wasn't supposed to park there, Your Honor. I know it was wrong. I didn't know what else to do." Judge Caprio leaned forward, his expression softening from judicial authority to grandfatherly concern. "Why don't you start from the beginning? What were you doing at Rhode Island Hospital that day?" "I was visiting my little brother," Emma said, her voice cracking on the word brother. "His name is Dylan. He's 8 years old." The judge nodded encouragingly, urging her to continue. "Dylan has acute lymphoblastic leukemia," Emma continued, her words dropping like heavy stones into the hushed courtroom. "He was diagnosed 14 months ago. That day, January 15th, he was having his 9th round of chemotherapy. If you believe children should never have to endure such suffering, hit that subscribe button." Judge Caprio's expression shifted almost imperceptibly, but those who knew him recognized the change. It was the look he wore when a case was about to become far more complex than the paperwork suggested. "I'm very sorry to hear about your brother," he said, his voice laced with genuine sympathy. That must be incredibly difficult for your whole family. It's just us, Emma said, and the weight of those 3 words felt like an encyclopedia of pain. Just me and Dylan. Our mom died from breast cancer 3 years ago. Our dad, She paused, swallowing hard. He couldn't handle losing Mom. He started drinking, started using. He disappeared for days, sometimes weeks. Child Services got involved about 6 months after Mom passed. The courtroom had fallen completely silent. Even Judge Caprio's clerk, Patricia Dyma, who had been typing notes for 30 years and prided herself on maintaining professional detachment, had stopped moving her fingers across the keyboard. Dylan and I were placed with our grandmother, Rosa Rodriguez, Emma continued. She took us in, gave us everything she had. But then Dylan got sick. And Grandma Rosa, she's 71 years old, and she works 2 jobs just to help with the medical bills that insurance doesn't cover. She cleans offices at night and works at a laundromat during the day. If you think healthcare should never bankrupt families like this video. On January 15th, Emma said, her voice steadier now but still trembling with emotion, Dylan had a really bad reaction to his treatment. They had to admit him to the ICU. I got the call during my shift at McDonald's. I work there after school, from 3 to 10, Monday through Friday. I'm a junior at Central High School. Judge Caprio made a note, absorbing the information. You work 35 hours a week while going to school? Yes, Your Honor. We need the money. Grandma Rosa's jobs cover rent and food, but there's always something else, medical copays. Medication that insurance won't cover, gas to get back and forth to the hospital. Dylan's been in and out of Rhode Island Hospital 17 times in the past 14 months. Share this with someone who works multiple jobs just to survive and needs to know they're not alone. When I got the call that Dylan was in the ICU, I panicked, Emma said, tears now streaming freely down her cheeks. I left work immediately. My manager, his name is Carlos, he understood. He told me to go, that family comes first. I drove to the hospital in my grandma's 2007 Honda Civic. The engine light's been on for 6 months, but we can't afford to fix it. Judge Caprio's face had undergone a complete transformation. The stern judicial authority had vanished, replaced by raw empathy. His own eyes began to glisten with unshed tears. When I got to the hospital, it was rush hour. Every parking space was taken. I drove around for 20 minutes, and every minute felt like an hour because I knew Dylan was scared and asking for me. The nurse who called said he kept crying my name. He's 8 years old, Your Honor, and he's been stuck with more needles than some people face in their entire lives. He's so scared, and he just wanted his sister. Emma's voice broke completely. She covered her face with her hands, her shoulders shaking with sobs. Court Officer Chun instinctively took a step forward, then hesitated, unsure if offering comfort would be appropriate. If you believe love is the strongest force in the universe, drop a comment. Judge Caprio allowed her to cry. He didn't rush her. He didn't tell her to compose herself. He simply waited, his own throat tight with emotion. Behind Emma, several people in the gallery were openly weeping. A woman in her 50s clutched her husband's hand. A young man wiped his eyes with his sleeve. After what seemed like an eternity, but was probably only 45 seconds, Emma lowered her hands and continued. I couldn't find a spot anywhere. The regular parking was full. The emergency room parking was full. The parking garage had a 30-minute wait, and I just kept thinking about Dylan alone and scared. So I pulled into a handicap space near the main entrance. I knew it was wrong. I knew I could get ticketed, but I told myself I'd just run in really quick. Just see Dylan for a few minutes, let him know I was there, and then I'd move the car. But that's not what happened. No, Your Honor, Emma's voice was barely audible. When I got to Dylan's ICU room, he was having a seizure. He'd never had a seizure before. There were 6 medical staff in his room, and they were working on him. And there was this alarm going off, and I could see his little body convulsing on that bed. And I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. I thought I was going to lose him right there. If you've ever felt completely helpless in the face of something terrible, hit subscribe. The seizure was caused by the chemotherapy medication, Emma explained, her words tumbling out faster now as if a dam had broken. It's a rare side effect, but it happens. They got it under control after about 4 minutes, but it felt like hours. Then they had to run more tests, adjust his medications, monitor him constantly. I sat by his bed, holding his hand. He was so weak he could barely keep his eyes open, but he kept squeezing my hand, and I promised him I wouldn't leave. Judge Caprio nodded slowly, understanding etched on his face. How long were you there? 7 hours, Emma said. I completely forgot about the car. I forgot about everything except making sure Dylan was okay. When I finally left at 10:30 that night, when Dylan had stabilized and fallen asleep, I found the ticket on my windshield. She laughed then, a bitter, broken sound. I just stood there in the parking lot under those orange lights, staring at that ticket, and I started laughing because it was so absurd. My 8-year-old brother has cancer. My grandmother works 80 hours a week and still can't make ends meet. I work every hour I'm not in school or drowning in medical debt. And now I have a $350 parking ticket that I have absolutely no way to pay. If you think the universe sometimes piles on when you're already down, like this video, I make $9.75 an hour at McDonald's. Emma continued. After taxes, that's about $8. $350 represents 42 hours of work. That's more than a full week of my life. And Your Honor, I don't know how every hour I'm not at school or work, I need to be at the hospital with Dylan or helping Grandma Rosa at home. Judge Caprio removed his glasses and rubbed his tired eyes. When he looked back at Emma, his face was raw with emotion. Young lady, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be honest with me. Where is your grandmother today? Why didn't she come with you to court? Emma's face crumpled, her fragile composure threatening to shatter. She doesn't know I'm here. She doesn't know about the ticket. If I told her, she would insist on paying it. And Your Honor, she can't. Last month, she had to choose between her blood pressure medication and buying Dylan the special nutrition shakes his doctor recommended. She chose the shakes. She hasn't taken her medication in 5 weeks. The words hung in the air, an indictment of every systemic failure that had led to this moment. Court Officer Chun turned away briefly, his jaw clenched. Patricia Daima openly wiped tears from her cheeks. Several people in the gallery gasped audibly. Tell us about someone you know who sacrifices everything for their family in the comments. I took a personal day from school to come here, Emma said. I told my guidance counselor, Mrs. Patterson, that I had a doctor's appointment. I couldn't tell her the truth because she already worries about me. She's been trying to get me to apply for college scholarships. But Your Honor, I can't even think about college right now. I can't think about next year or next month. Some days I can barely think about tomorrow. What are your grades like? Judge Caprio asked, his voice thick with emotion. I have a 3.7 GPA, Emma said with a small shrug, as if this remarkable achievement while working 35 hours a week and dealing with unimaginable family trauma was nothing special. I'm in 3 AP classes. I was on the honor roll before Dylan got sick. Now I'm just trying to keep up. Mrs. Patterson says I have a chance at a full scholarship to Rhode Island College or maybe even Brown if I could just focus on my applications. But how can I focus on essays about my future when I don't know if my little brother will have a future? Share this video with anyone who needs to understand that academic achievement doesn't happen in a vacuum. Judge Caprio stood up from his bench, an act he almost never did during court proceedings. He walked around to the front, eliminating the physical barrier between himself and Emma. At 77 years old, he moved with the careful deliberation of age, but his eyes were blazing with righteous fire. Emma, he said, the use of her first name rather than young lady or Miss Rodriguez, causing several people in the gallery to look up sharply. I want you to listen to me very carefully. Are you listening? Yes, Your Honor, Emma whispered, her voice barely audible. You are not a criminal, Judge Caprio said, his voice ringing through the courtroom with absolute conviction. You are not a bad person. You are not irresponsible or careless or any of the things that parking enforcement officer might have thought when he wrote that ticket. You are a hero. Emma's face registered shock, then disbelief, then something that looked like hope but was too fragile to name. You are 17 years old, Judge Caprio continued, his voice starting to tremble, and you are carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders. You work 35 hours a week. You maintain a 3.7 GPA. You show up every single day for a little boy who is fighting for his life. You are the reason your brother squeezes your hand. You are the reason he can be brave. You are the reason he holds on. Hit subscribe if you believe heroes don't always wear capes. The judge's voice broke completely on the last word. He paused, visibly struggling to compose himself. The courtroom was so quiet you could hear the heating system humming in the walls. When Judge Caprio spoke again, tears were streaming down his weathered cheeks. "My father," he said slowly, "came to this country from Italy with nothing. He didn't speak English. He worked construction jobs, broke his back building this city. He used to tell me that the measure of a society is how it treats its most vulnerable members. Emma, you are vulnerable. Dylan is vulnerable. Your grandmother is vulnerable. And this system, this parking ticket, this $350 fine, it's failing you in every possible way." He turned to his clerk. "Patricia, I'm dismissing this ticket entirely. Void it. I don't want Miss Rodriguez to pay a single penny." Emma gasped, her hand flying to her mouth in disbelief. "Your Honor, I'm not finished," Judge Caprio said, holding up his hand gently. "Court Officer Chun, please bring me the donation box. If you believe in the power of human kindness to change lives, like this video." Michael Chun moved quickly, retrieving a clear acrylic box from the side of the courtroom. It was the court's voluntary charity collection, filled with bills and change that people occasionally donated after Judge Caprio helped them. Chun placed it on the judge's desk. "This box," Judge Caprio explained to Emma, "contains donations from people who have appeared in this courtroom and wanted to pay forward the kindness they received. I want you to have it. All of it." "Your Honor, I can't," Emma began, shaking her head in protest, but Judge Caprio shook his head firmly. "Yes, you can, and you will. But that's still not enough. Patricia, how much is in that box currently?" Patricia Dimaw had already counted it during the testimony. Your Honor." "Emma, that money is yours," Judge Caprio said firmly. "Use it for gas to get to the hospital. Use it for food. Use it for whatever you and Dylan and your grandmother need. But I'm going to do something else." He turned to address the entire courtroom. "Ladies and gentlemen, you've all heard Emma's story. You've heard about 8-year-old Dylan fighting cancer. You've heard about a 17-year-old girl working herself to exhaustion trying to hold her family together. You've heard about a 71-year-old grandmother choosing between medication and food. This is happening right here in Providence, to our community, to our neighbors. Drop a comment sharing one thing you're grateful for today, because perspective matters." Judge Caprio's voice grew stronger, more passionate. "I'm going to give each of you a choice. When your case is called today, if I rule in your favor, if I reduce your fine or dismiss your ticket, I'm going to ask you to consider making a donation to help Emma's family. It's completely voluntary. Nobody will be judged for saying no. But if you can spare even $5, even $2, it will make a difference." The gallery erupted in applause. It started with one person in the back row, then spread like wildfire until everyone was clapping. Emma stood frozen in shock, tears streaming down her face, unable to process what was happening. A man in his 40s stood up from the third row. "Your Honor, I don't have a case today. I'm here with my wife supporting her for a speeding ticket, but I want to donate right now." He pulled out his wallet and walked forward, placing two $20 bills in Patricia's hand. "I have a daughter Emma's age. This could be her. This could be any of us." His wife followed, adding another 20. Then a woman in scrubs, clearly on her break from a nursing shift, came forward with a 10. Then another person and another. Within 5 minutes, 17 people had donated, and Patricia was frantically trying to keep count. Share this video if you believe communities are stronger when we help each other. Emma was sobbing openly now, but they were different tears. These weren't tears of despair or exhaustion or fear. These were tears of relief, of gratitude, of feeling seen and valued and supported for the first time in what felt like forever. Judge Caprio placed a gentle hand on Emma's shoulder. "Young lady, I want you to promise me something. Will you promise me something?" Emma nodded, unable to speak. I want you to take care of yourself, too, Judge Caprio said softly. You cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot save Dylan if you destroy yourself in the process. You need to sleep. You need to eat. You need to let people help you. Do you understand? Yes, Your Honor, Emma managed to whisper. And I want you to apply for those scholarships, the judge continued. I want you to let Mrs. Patterson help you because, Emma, Dylan needs you to have a future, too. He needs to see you succeed. He needs to know that his brave, brilliant, beautiful sister didn't give up on her dreams. That's going to give him hope. That's going to help him fight. Hit subscribe if someone's words ever changed your entire perspective on life. But Judge Caprio wasn't done. He returned to his bench and picked up his phone. Emma, I'm going to make a call right now. I have a friend, Dr. Rachel Morrison, who runs a family support program at Hasbro Children's Hospital. She connects families dealing with pediatric cancer to resources, support groups, financial assistance programs, everything you might need. I'm going to personally ask her to reach out to you and your grandmother. Will you accept help from her? Yes, Your Honor, Emma said, her voice stronger now. Thank you. Thank you so much. And one more thing, Judge Caprio said, and there was a slight twinkle in his eye now, a hint of his famous warmth breaking through the emotion. I want you to bring Dylan to visit me when he's feeling up to it. I have a grandson about his age, and I happen to know where they sell the best ice cream in Providence. What's Dylan's favorite flavor? Emma laughed through her tears, a real laugh that sounded rusty from disuse. Chocolate chip cookie dough. Chocolate chip cookie dough it is, Judge Caprio confirmed. You tell Dylan that Judge Caprio says he's the bravest 8-year-old in Rhode Island. And when he beats this thing, when he rings that bell at the hospital that says he's cancer-free, you bring him straight to my courtroom. Deal? Deal, Emma agreed, smiling for the first time since entering the courthouse. If you believe in the healing power of hope and human connection, like this video. As Emma turned to leave, Patricia Dymaw called her back. Honey, we're not quite done counting, but you need to take this. She handed Emma a large envelope. There's $860 in here so far, and people are still coming forward. I'm going to add anything else that comes in today, and we'll call you tomorrow with a final total. Also, Judge Caprio wrote his personal cell phone number on this card. If you or your grandmother or Dylan need anything at all, you call him directly. Emma clutched the envelope to her chest like it was made of gold. Court Officer Chun quietly approached and handed her a tissue box, which made Emma laugh again, this time with genuine warmth. Thank you, Emma said to the courtroom, to the judge, to the strangers who had become benefactors, to the universe that had finally cut her a break. Thank you all so much. You have no idea what this means. I don't have words. You don't need words, Judge Caprio said gently. You just need to keep being exactly who you are. This world needs more people like you, Emma Rodriguez. As Emma left the courtroom, walking past the remaining people waiting for their cases, every single person stood up. It was a spontaneous standing ovation for a 17-year-old girl who'd been doing her best in impossible circumstances. Some people hugged her. Others pressed additional money into her hands. A woman in her 60s pulled Emma into a fierce embrace and whispered, "My grandson beat leukemia. Dylan can too. Don't give up. Drop a comment if you've ever witnessed humanity at its absolute best." After Emma had gone, Judge Caprio sat at his bench for a long moment, staring at the empty space where she'd stood. Finally, he looked up at the waiting gallery and spoke in a voice still thick with emotion. "Ladies and gentlemen, I've been doing this job for over 30 years. I've seen thousands of cases. I've heard every excuse, every story, every explanation you can imagine. But I want you to understand something about what just happened here. That young woman didn't come into this courtroom with excuses. She came with the truth. She came with humility and dignity and courage that most adults never manage to find." He paused, gathering his thoughts. Emma Rodriguez represents every person who's ever been crushed by circumstances beyond their control. She represents every family destroyed by medical debt. She represents every child forced to grow up too fast. And yes, she broke a parking law. She parked in a handicap space. By the letter of the law, she was wrong. Judge Caprio's voice grew firmer, more passionate. But the law is not just about. The law books are filled with rules, yes, but justice? True justice understands the nuances of life. It's about seeing the individual standing before you, acknowledging their humanity, rather than simply focusing on the infraction on a piece of paper. Justice recognizes that what is legally correct isn't always morally right. And when those two paths diverge, we must choose to be compassionate humans first, and only then, upholders of rules. Share this if you believe genuine justice demands empathy and wisdom, not just adherence to the letter of the law. The cases that followed that day were handled with extraordinary generosity. Judge Caprio, with a gentle understanding, dismissed a parking ticket for a man who had parked illegally to assist an elderly woman who had fallen and hurt herself. He reduced a speeding fine for a dedicated nurse who was rushing to the hospital to cover an emergency shift. Each person who benefited from his leniency was given the option to contribute to Emma's fund, and the vast majority willingly did. By the close of that court session, Patricia Dimaw had collected an additional $400 for the Rodriguez family. But the story didn't conclude within the walls of that Providence courtroom. What transpired on that February morning was captured on video. The city routinely recorded all court proceedings for official purposes, and Judge Caprio's television program, Caught in Providence, also had its cameras rolling. Within just 2 days, the footage had been skillfully edited and uploaded online. The video went viral, exploding across social media platforms. Within a week, it had garnered a staggering 37 million views on Facebook alone. YouTube views climbed to over 22 million. News outlets worldwide picked up the story. Emma Rodriguez, who had entered that courtroom feeling isolated and overwhelmed, became the unexpected symbol of everything good and everything challenging about America all at once. Hit subscribe if you believe some stories need to be shared with the world. Local news station WPRI dispatched reporter Jennifer Martinez to interview Emma at Rhode Island Hospital, where Dylan was undergoing another round of treatment. Emma, still reeling from the sudden attention, agreed to speak on camera. Jennifer found her sitting in the pediatric oncology waiting room, balancing a laptop on her knees as she typed away. "I'm working on my college application essays," Emma explained, when Jennifer inquired about her activity. "After everything that happened in court, Mrs. Patterson, my guidance counselor, told me I couldn't let what happened be an excuse anymore. She said Judge Caprio had given me a gift, and I had a responsibility to honor it by reaching for my dreams." The camera focused on Emma's face as she spoke, capturing her earnest expression. America fell in love with this resilient teenager who embodied strength and determination. She wasn't bitter. She wasn't seeking pity. She was simply trying to forge a brighter future while navigating an incredibly difficult present. "How is Dylan doing?" Jennifer asked softly. Emma's face instantly brightened, a transformation that illuminated her entire being. "He's tough. Really tough. He has good days and bad days. Today's a good day. He's in there right now with Grandma Rosa, and they're watching The Lion King for probably the 100th time. He likes to pretend he's Simba. Has he seen the video of you in court?" "Yeah," Emma said, smiling. "He doesn't really understand what happened, but he knows a lot of people are being nice to us now. He asked me if Judge Caprio was like a superhero. And honestly, I told him yes because that's what it felt like. Like someone with power actually saw us and decided to help instead of just following the rules. Like this video if you've ever met someone who restored your faith in humanity." The news segment then featured an interview with Dylan's primary oncologist, Dr. Sarah Chun, who had been treating him since his initial diagnosis. Dr. Chun, bound by patient privacy laws but authorized by Rosa Rodriguez to speak generally about Dylan's case, painted a picture of a demanding and arduous battle. Acute lymphoblastic leukemia is the most common form of childhood cancer, but that doesn't make it any less devastating, Dr. Chen explained. Dylan's treatment protocol involves multiple phases of intensive chemotherapy, and it's incredibly harsh on a young body. The nausea, the relentless fatigue, the hair loss, the emotional toll. It's incredibly difficult. But Dylan has something that makes a real difference in treatment outcomes. "What's that?" Jennifer asked, intrigued. "He has Emma," Dr. Chan said simply. "The presence of a consistent, loving support system dramatically improves pediatric cancer outcomes. Studies show that children with strong family support demonstrate better treatment adherence, improved emotional well-being, and statistically higher survival rates. Emma shows up. She's been here for 17 admissions, countless treatments, every major procedure. That matters more than most people realize. Drop a comment if there's someone in your life who showed up for you when it mattered most. The news segment also included an interview with Rosa Rodriguez, Emma's grandmother, conducted in her small but spotlessly clean apartment in the Elmwood neighborhood of Providence. Rosa, a petite woman with silver hair pulled back in a neat bun, spoke with a noticeable accent but with unwavering clarity. When Emma told me what happened in the court, Rosa said, her eyes welling up with tears, I could not believe it. I cried for 1 hour. Do you know why I cried? Not just because of the money, though God knows we needed the money. I cried because someone saw my Emma. Someone understood that she is good, that she is trying, that she is doing everything possible. Rosa led Jennifer through their humble apartment. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, and a small kitchen where Rosa clearly dedicated countless hours cooking to stretch their limited food budget. Dylan's room was filled with superhero posters and get-well cards from his 3rd-grade classmates. Emma's room was barely bigger than a walk-in closet, containing a twin bed, a desk piled high with textbooks, and a small dresser. Emma. She never complains, Rosa said, sitting on the edge of Emma's bed. Never. She works, she studies, she takes care of Dylan, she helps me. Sometimes, I see her fall asleep doing homework at 2 o'clock in the morning. And I want to cry because no child should have to live like this. But we do what we have to do. We are Rodri's family. We survive. Share this video with anyone who needs to remember that strength comes in all forms. The nationwide attention brought unexpected blessings. A GoFundMe campaign, started by someone who had seen the court video, raised over $400,000 in the first month alone. The Providence Community Foundation established a dedicated fund for Emma's education. Brown University's admissions office personally contacted her to encourage her application and inform her about their comprehensive financial aid program for qualified Rhode Island residents. Local businesses also stepped up to offer assistance. A Toyota dealership in Warwick gave Rosa a certified pre-owned 2022 Camry to replace her unreliable Honda Civic. The manager, Dennis Sullivan, explained his reasoning to local reporters. These folks need reliable transportation to get to medical appointments. That Honda was a breakdown waiting to happen. This is the least we could do. A grocery store chain established a monthly delivery program, ensuring that the Rodriguez family had access to fresh food without Rosa having to stretch every dollar. The owner, Anthony Petrarca, simply stated, "We take care of our own in Rhode Island." But perhaps the most meaningful support came from other families battling pediatric cancer. Emma began receiving letters, emails, and social media messages from parents and siblings across the country who deeply understood what she was experiencing. Hit subscribe if you believe shared experiences create the strongest bonds. One letter, in particular, moved Emma to tears. It came from a woman named Catherine White in Seattle, whose daughter had survived leukemia 5 years earlier. Catherine wrote, "Dear Emma, when I watched your video, I saw myself 12 years ago. My daughter Lily was 7 when she was diagnosed. I had to quit my job to care for her. We lost our house. We lost everything except each other. But Emma, here's what I want you to know. Lily is 17 now, cancer-free for 5 years, and she just got accepted to the University of Washington on a full scholarship. She plays soccer. She laughs. She lives. Your Dylan can have that future, too. Don't give up hope. And please, please, take care of yourself. You matter, too." Emma kept that letter in her backpack, reading it whenever exhaustion threatened to overwhelm her. She began attending a support group for siblings of pediatric cancer patients, facilitated by Dr. Morrison's program at Hasbar Children's Hospital. There, she met other teenagers carrying similar burdens, and for the first time she didn't feel so utterly alone. 3 months after her court appearance, on a warm May afternoon, Emma stood before her AP English class to give a presentation. The assignment was to discuss a transformative personal experience. Most students talked about mission trips or athletic victories. Emma chose to speak about learning to accept help. I used to think asking for help meant I was weak, Emma told her classmates, most of whom knew her story from the viral video. I thought I had to do everything myself, be everything for everyone. But Judge Caprio taught me something that day in court. He taught me that accepting help isn't weakness. It's actually strength. Takes courage to be vulnerable. Takes courage to let people see you struggling. Like this video, if you've ever learned that vulnerability is actually a form of courage. Her classmates gave her a standing ovation. Her teacher, Mr. Robert Chun, approached her after class with tears in his eyes. Emma, that was the most powerful presentation I've heard in 27 years of teaching. Have you considered writing your college essay about this experience? Mrs. Patterson suggested the same thing, Emma admitted. But I'm worried it might seem like I'm looking for sympathy. No, Mr. Chun said firmly. You're sharing a truth that needs to be shared. You're giving voice to thousands of students facing similar challenges. That's not asking for sympathy. That's leadership. So Emma wrote. She wrote about Dylan's diagnosis and her mother's death and her father's abandonment. She wrote about working at McDonald's and studying until 2 o'clock in the morning. She wrote about the parking ticket and Judge Caprio's tears. But mostly, she wrote about hope, about community, about learning that none of us are meant to face life's hardest battles alone. She submitted applications to 7 schools. Brown, Rhode Island College, Providence College, Johnson & Wales, URI, Roger Williams, and South Virginia. Mrs. Patterson helped her apply for dozens of scholarships. The guidance counselor spent countless hours editing essays, filling out forms, and making calls to admissions offices. Drop a comment telling us about a teacher or mentor who believed in you when you struggled to believe in yourself. Meanwhile, Dylan's treatment continued. Good days interspersed with brutal days. Weeks where he seemed to be making progress, followed by setbacks that crushed everyone's spirits. Emma maintained her constant vigil, showing up at the hospital every day after school and work, sitting by his bed, reading him stories, helping him with the schoolwork assigned by his hospital tutor. In June, Dylan had a particularly difficult week. His blood counts dropped dangerously low, and he developed a secondary infection that required intensive antibiotic treatment. Emma sat by his bedside for 48 hours straight, missing work and school, refusing to leave even when the nurses urged her to rest. On the second night, around 3 o'clock in the morning, Dylan woke up disoriented and frightened. Emma immediately leaned close, taking his small hand in hers. Emma, Dylan whispered, his voice raspy from the breathing treatments. Am I going to die? Emma's heart shattered into a million pieces, but she didn't let Dylan see her pain. She smiled through her tears and squeezed his hand gently. No, buddy, you're not going to die. You're going to beat this thing. You're going to ring that bell, remember? And then we're going to go get ice cream with Judge Caprio. Chocolate chip cookie dough? Dylan asked hopefully. The biggest bowl they have, Emma promised. And then you're going to go back to school and you're going to play with your friends and you're going to grow up to be whatever you want to be, an astronaut or a superhero or whatever. But right now, you need to rest and let the medicine work. Can you do that for me? Share this video if love is the reason you keep fighting when everything seems impossible. Dylan nodded and closed his eyes, reassured by his sister's unwavering presence. Emma settled back in the uncomfortable hospital chair that had become her second home and let the tears flow silently. She was so tired, so incredibly tired, but she couldn't stop. Not while Dylan needed her. Rosa found her like that at 6 o'clock in the morning, asleep in the chair, still holding Dylan's hand. The grandmother gently woke Emma and insisted she go home to shower and sleep in a real bed. Emma resisted at first, but Rosa was firm. You will be no good to Dylan if you collapse, Rosa said with loving sternness. Go home, sleep for 4 hours, eat something besides hospital cafeteria food, then come back. Dylan will be here. I will be here. We are not going anywhere. Emma reluctantly agreed. At home, she collapsed into bed fully clothed and slept for 5 hours straight, the first uninterrupted sleep she'd had in 3 days. When she woke up, she found a care package on the kitchen table. Inside were fresh muffins from a local bakery, a gift card for gas, and a note that simply said, "Thinking of you and praying for Dylan. from the Cott and Providence family. Hit subscribe if you believe small acts of kindness ripple out in ways we can't even imagine. Judge Caprio had kept his promise to stay in touch. He texted Emma every few days to check on Dylan and offer words of encouragement. When he heard about Dylan's setback, he sent a video message that the nurses played for the 8-year-old when he woke up. In the video, Judge Caprio was sitting in his courtroom after hours. "Hey Dylan," he said warmly. "I heard you're having a tough week, buddy. I want you to know that everyone here at the courthouse is rooting for you. Officer Chun says you're the strongest kid he's ever heard of. Patricia says you're even braver than her grandson, and trust me, that's saying something." The judge leaned closer to the camera, his expression serious but kind. "Dylan, I know you don't feel strong right now. I know you feel sick and tired and scared. But being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. Being brave means you keep fighting even when you are scared. And you, young man, are one of the bravest people I've ever met. Your sister Emma is so proud of you. Your grandma Rosa is so proud of you. And I'm proud of you, too. Now, I need you to do me a favor," Judge Caprio continued. "I need you to rest and let the doctors and nurses take care of you. I need you to eat even when you don't feel like it. I need you to keep fighting because we have a date. Remember? We have ice cream waiting for us. And I don't eat ice cream with quitters, Dylan. I eat ice cream with champions. So you be a champion, okay? Like this if you've ever been inspired by someone's refusal to give up." Dylan watched the video 3 times that day. Emma watched it with him, crying quietly where he couldn't see. That video became Dylan's talisman, his source of strength. Whenever he felt like giving up, whenever the treatments felt like too much, nurses would play Judge Caprio's message, and somehow Dylan found the courage to keep going. By early July, Dylan's infection had cleared, and his blood counts were improving. He graduated to the regular pediatric oncology floor, a momentous victory. While doctors remained cautiously optimistic, Emma allowed herself to truly hope. On July 15th, exactly 6 months after the courtroom encounter, Emma received an email that changed everything. The subject line read, "Brown University Office of Admissions." Her hands trembled as she opened it. "Dear Emma, congratulations. It is with great pleasure that we offer you admission to Brown University's class of 2029 as a summer transfer student. Your exceptional academic achievement under extraordinarily challenging circumstances, combined with your powerful personal essay and glowing recommendations, made you a standout candidate." Emma read the email 3 times before she could fully grasp it. She had been accepted to Brown, but the email continued with even more astonishing news. "Drop a comment and tell us about a moment when a dream you'd almost given up on suddenly came true. Based on your financial circumstances, we are pleased to offer you a full scholarship package that includes tuition, fees, room, and board. Additionally, the Royce Fellowship Program has selected you for a special grant that will provide a monthly stipend for books, supplies, and personal expenses. You will graduate from Brown University debt-free." Emma sat in stunned silence in her tiny bedroom, staring at her laptop screen. Brown University, full scholarship. She'd done it. Against all odds, despite everything stacked against her, she'd done it. Her first call was to Dylan, who was at the hospital for a day treatment. "Dylan, I got into Brown University. That's the really smart school, right?" Dylan asked, and Emma could hear the immense pride in his weak voice. "My sister's going to the really smart school." Her second call was to Grandma Rosa, who was at work. Rosa's scream of joy was so loud that her co-workers came running, fearing something was wrong. When Rosa explained through tears of happiness what had happened, her entire workplace erupted in celebration. Her third call was to Mrs. Patterson, her guidance counselor, who began to cry immediately. "Emma, I knew it. I knew they'd see how special you are. Oh, honey, I'm so proud of you. Share this with anyone who needs proof that perseverance and hope can overcome almost anything." Emma's fourth call was to Judge Caprio's personal cell phone, the number he had given her 6 months earlier. He answered on the second ring. "Judge Caprio, it's Emma Rodriguez. I got into Brown University. Full scholarship." There was a moment of silence. Then Emma heard the unmistakable sound of the judge choking up. "Emma, that's wonderful. That's absolutely wonderful. I'm so proud of you, young lady. You see what happens when you don't give up? When you keep pushing forward, even when everything feels impossible. I couldn't have done it without you, Emma said, her own voice trembling. If you hadn't dismissed that ticket, if you hadn't helped us, I wouldn't have had the time or energy to finish my applications. You changed our lives. No, Emma, Judge Caprio said gently. You changed your own life. I just removed one obstacle. You did the rest. You worked the jobs. You earned the grades. You took care of Dylan. You wrote the essays. You did the impossible. Don't ever forget that. Hit subscribe if you believe people need both opportunity and someone who believes in them to achieve their dreams. That night, Emma visited Dylan at the hospital with a small cake from the grocery store. Dylan was having a good day, alert and smiling, his bald head covered with the superhero beanie Emma had bought him. The nurses had decorated his room with congratulatory signs when they heard Emma's news. I'm going to Brown University, Emma told Dylan, sitting on the edge of his hospital bed. It's one of the best schools in the country. Are you going to leave me? Dylan asked, his lower lip trembling. Emma pulled him into a gentle hug, careful of his port. Never. Brown is right here in Providence, just 20 minutes away. I'll live on campus, but I'll come see you all the time. Every single day if you want. Nothing's going to change except I'll be learning how to make our lives even better. What are you going to study? Dylan asked. Emma hadn't really thought about it until that moment, but suddenly she knew. I'm going to study public health and social work. I'm going to help other families who are going through what we're going through. I'm going to make sure kids like you get the support they need. And I'm going to fight to change the systems that make everything so hard. Like this video, if you believe our struggles can become our purpose. August brought more good news. Dylan's latest scans showed significant improvement. His oncologist, Dr. Chun, used the word remission for the first time, though she cautioned that they needed to complete the full treatment protocol and maintain vigilant monitoring. Still, it was the most hopeful word Emma had heard in 14 months. In mid-August, Judge Caprio invited the entire Rodriguez family to his courtroom for a special celebration. The session wasn't being filmed for television, but the local news was there, and the gallery was packed with people who had followed Emma's journey and wanted to celebrate with them. Dylan, wearing his favorite Spider-Man shirt and the beanie that covered his still bald head, walked into the courtroom holding Emma's hand. He looked tiny and fragile, but his eyes were bright with curiosity and excitement. Dylan Rodriguez, Judge Caprio announced from his bench, his voice booming with theatrical flair. Please approach the bench. Dylan looked nervously at Emma, who nodded encouragingly. Together, they walked forward, with Rosa following close behind. Young man, Judge Caprio said, looking down at Dylan with mock seriousness. It has come to my attention that you are the bravest 8-year-old in all of Rhode Island. Is this true? Drop a comment if you know a child who's braver than most adults will ever need to be. Dylan giggled, a sound that filled Emma's heart with more joy than she thought possible. I don't know, he said shyly. Well, I have it on good authority, Judge Caprio continued, from doctors and nurses and a whole lot of people who love you very much. Therefore, as a judge of the Providence Municipal Court, I am issuing an official decree. He held up a document with an official-looking seal. This document states that Dylan Rodriguez is hereby recognized as an official hero of Providence, Rhode Island. Furthermore, it states that said hero is entitled to free ice cream at any location of his choosing to be provided immediately. How does chocolate chip cookie dough sound? Dylan's face lit up like fireworks. Really? Right now? Right now, Judge Caprio confirmed. He came around from his bench and knelt down to Dylan's eye level, which couldn't have been easy for a 77-year-old man. Dylan, you've been so strong. You've fought so hard. I want you to know that everyone in this courtroom is amazed by you. You're teaching all of us what real courage looks like. The judge reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. Inside was a silver medal on a blue ribbon, clearly custom-made. Engraved on it were the words, Dylan Rodriguez, champion for extraordinary courage in the face of adversity. Share this video if you believe courage should always be recognized and celebrated. Judge Caprio placed the medal around Dylan's neck, and the courtroom erupted in applause. Dylan looked down at the medal in wonder, then up at Emma with the biggest smile she'd seen in months. "Thank you, Judge Caprio," Dylan said softly. "You're my favorite judge in the whole world. And you're my favorite 8-year-old champion in the whole world," Judge Caprio replied, his voice thick with emotion again. He stood up and addressed the gallery. "Ladies and gentlemen, this family represents everything good about Rhode Island. They represent resilience, love, sacrifice, and hope. Emma Rodriguez is heading to Brown University on a full scholarship. Dylan is in remission and fighting every day. Rosa Rodriguez continues to work hard and hold this family together. They didn't give up. They didn't surrender to despair. And we, as a community, came together to support them." The judge paused, collecting himself. 6 months ago, Emma stood in this courtroom with here she stood, a lifetime removed from that crushing parking ticket and the avalanche of anxieties it heralded. Now, a brilliant horizon stretched before her. And there was Dylan, once tethered to a hospital bed, locked in a brutal battle for his very existence. Now, a medal gleamed against his chest, a testament to unspeakable courage. This was the embodiment of justice. Not blind adherence to rules, but a profound recognition of human beings, an empathetic understanding of their trials, and a hand extended to lift them higher. If you believe in a community woven with this kind of justice, hit subscribe. Judge Caprio turned his gaze towards Emma, a twinkle in his eye. "Young lady, I have one more surprise in store for you. The Cot and Providence Show has established a scholarship fund for exceptional students who demonstrate true promise. We've never awarded an amount of this magnitude before, but the board was in complete agreement. We're awarding you a $40,000 scholarship, $10,000 for each year at Brown, to help offset any expenses not covered by your existing financial aid. Consider this an investment in your future as a public health advocate, as a force for good in social work. We believe in you." Emma's knees buckled momentarily, and Rosa instinctively reached out to steady her. $40,000, on top of a full scholarship. The sheer relief was overwhelming. She could finally concentrate on her studies, free from the relentless grip of financial insecurity. She could afford to buy new textbooks instead of scouring for used ones. She could actually eat regular meals in the dining hall, instead of meticulously rationing her ramen. She could breathe. "I don't know what to say," Emma whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you just doesn't seem adequate." "Then don't say anything," Judge Caprio responded softly. "Just promise me you'll seize this opportunity. Promise me you'll dedicate your education to helping other families who are facing similar struggles. Promise me you'll hold on to this feeling, this moment when the community rallied around you, and promise me you'll pay it forward for the rest of your life." "I promise," Emma affirmed, her voice filled with unwavering determination. "I promise with every fiber of my being." If you believe that every act of kindness unleashes ripples that spread far beyond our comprehension, give this video a thumbs up. True to his word, Judge Caprio treated the entire Rodriguez family to ice cream at his beloved local shop in Providence's Federal Hill neighborhood. Dylan, wide-eyed with delight, ordered the largest bowl of chocolate chip cookie dough ice cream Emma had ever witnessed. Rosa opted for a classic stracciatella. Emma chose a refreshing lemon sorbet. Judge Caprio, savoring his pistachio, regaled them with stories of his childhood in Providence, stories that made Dylan laugh so hard his stomach ached. The local news cameras captured the heartwarming scene, and the image of Dylan, bald but beaming, sitting across from Judge Caprio and devouring his ice cream, became an instant feel-good sensation, dominating Rhode Island news for an entire week. The image went viral, shared millions of times on social media, accompanied by captions like, "This is what humanity looks like," and "Faith in humanity restored." As summer gracefully transitioned into fall, Emma diligently prepared for her new chapter at Brown. The university made arrangements for her to live in a dorm conveniently located near campus, ensuring she could easily travel home to assist with Dylan. Her roommate, as fate would have it, was another first-generation college student from Providence who had been deeply moved by Emma's story and specifically requested to room with her. Dylan continued his rigorous treatment protocol, experiencing both good days and undeniably challenging ones, but thankfully the good days began to outweigh the bad. His hair gradually started to grow back, appearing in soft, fuzzy patches. His energy slowly returned, and he was able to return to school part-time in September, wearing a protective mask but overjoyed to be reunited with his friends. Share in the comments what you're currently fighting for, because we all need to remember that we are not alone in our struggles. On September 23rd, Emma officially moved into her dorm at Brown University. Her room in Quad was modest in size, but felt like a palace compared to her closet-sized bedroom back home. Rosa meticulously helped her unpack, folding clothes and arranging books with the same unwavering care she brought to every aspect of her life. Dylan, wearing his ever-present medal, sat on Emma's bed, fidgeting excitedly, spinning in circles to watch Emma's posters blur into streaks of color. "You're really in college now," Rosa said, her voice thick with emotion. "Your mother would be bursting with pride. I wish she could be here to see this." "She is," Emma said, wrapping her grandmother in a tight embrace. "I know she is, and she'd be proud of all of us. We made it, Grandma. We actually made it." That first semester was a period of intense adjustment. Emma had to learn to navigate the rigorous academic environment of an elite university while balancing her responsibilities to her family back home. She wrestled with feelings of imposter syndrome, feeling out of place among students who had attended prestigious prep schools and enjoyed international vacations. But she persevered and found her tribe. Other first-generation students, other working-class kids, other young people who understood that a college education was a privilege, not a given. She joined a volunteer organization that provided support to families with hospitalized children. She launched a campus awareness campaign to shed light on the devastating effects of medical debt and family homelessness. She started a blog about her experiences, which quickly attracted thousands of followers who found hope and inspiration in her honest words. Share this with any first-generation college student who needs to know that they absolutely belong exactly where they are. In November, Emma received an unexpected call from Dr. Chun. Her heart plummeted instantly, conditioned by months of fearing the worst every time the phone rang. "Emma," Dr. Chun said, and Emma could hear the unmistakable sound of a smile in her voice. "Dylan's latest scans are completely clear. All his markers are within the normal range. His strength is returning steadily. If he continues on this trajectory, we can begin to reduce the frequency of his treatments starting in January." Emma sank onto her dorm bed, her hand flying to her mouth in disbelief. Clear scans, normal markers, reduced treatment. These were the words she had been too afraid to even whisper in her own thoughts. Does this mean he's going to be okay?" Emma asked, her voice barely audible. "I never make guarantees when it comes to cancer," Dr. Chun cautioned gently. "But Emma, this is as good as it gets. Dylan is responding remarkably well to the treatment. His prognosis is excellent. I'm very, very optimistic." Emma immediately called Dylan. "Hey buddy, I just heard your scans were really good. Dr. Chun says I'm kicking cancer's butt," Dylan announced proudly. "She says if I keep doing this good, I get to ring the bell soon, and then we can have a party. Hit subscribe if you believe some battles are worth every single ounce of strength they require." The bell Dylan mentioned was a cherished tradition at Rhode Island Hospital's Pediatric Oncology Unit. When a child successfully completes their cancer treatment, they have the honor of ringing a large bell mounted in the hallway, a triumphant signal of their victory over the disease. Emma had witnessed other children ring that bell over the past months, always experiencing a bittersweet mix of joy for them and a desperate hope that someday, Dylan would get his turn. "You're going to ring that bell so hard they'll hear it all the way in Massachusetts," Emma promised, her voice choked with emotion. "And we're going to have the biggest party Rhode Island has ever seen." December brought the stress of finals week, and Emma channeled all her energy into her studies with the same unwavering determination she brought to everything she did. She finished her first semester with an impressive 3.85 GPA, earning the admiration of her professors and securing a coveted spot on the dean's list. When the official letter arrived at Rose's apartment, The proud grandmother lovingly framed it and hung it in the living room, alongside Dylan's vibrant drawings and Emma's high school diploma. For Christmas, Judge Caprio sent the Rodriguez family a heartfelt card with a simple, yet powerful message. Wishing you a blessed holiday season and a healthy new year. You remain in my prayers. With love and respect, Frank. Inside the card was a generous gift certificate to a local family restaurant and tickets to a Providence Bruins hockey game. Every family needs fun memories, not just survival. The judge had written in an accompanying note. Like this video, if someone's generosity has ever reminded you that kindness is the greatest gift we can give. The Rodriguez family eagerly used those hockey tickets in January, and Dylan had the time of his life. He devoured hot dogs and popcorn, screamed until he was hoarse from cheering, and even managed to catch a t-shirt launched into the crowd. Emma captured a photo of him proudly holding the t-shirt, his medal still around his neck, grinning from ear to ear. She immediately texted it to Judge Caprio with the caption, "A champion at the hockey game. Thank you for reminding us how to smile." The judge responded within minutes. "That smile is worth more than all the court cases in the world. Keep fighting, champion." In February, exactly 1 year after Emma's life-altering court appearance, Dylan completed his final scheduled chemotherapy treatment. Dr. Chun cautiously announced that if his scans remained clear for the next 2 months, he would be eligible to ring the bell in April. The next 2 months stretched out before Emma, feeling like the longest and most agonizing of her life. She threw herself into her spring semester courses, now pursuing a double major in public health and social work. She diligently maintained her volunteer work, her family visits, and her blog writing. She purposefully kept herself so busy that she didn't have time to dwell on her worries, though those worries continued to lurk in the back of her mind during quiet moments. Drop a comment and tell us what you do when you're waiting for life-changing news. Dylan, meanwhile, was thriving. With the end of his treatment in sight, his energy levels soared dramatically. His hair grew back thick and dark. His appetite returned with a vengeance. He happily returned to school full-time and eagerly rejoined his friends on the playground. Watching him run, laugh, and simply be a kid again felt like witnessing a genuine miracle. On April 12th, Dylan had his crucial follow-up scans. Emma skipped her classes to be at the hospital, completely unable to focus on anything else. She sat anxiously in the waiting room with Rosa, both of them holding hands tightly and praying silently. When Dr. Chun finally emerged from the consultation room, her face was radiant with a smile. "He's clear. Completely clear. Dylan Rodriguez is cancer-free." Emma and Rosa collapsed into each other's arms, sobbing uncontrollably with a mixture of overwhelming relief, pure joy, and profound gratitude. Cancer-free. Those 2 words represented countless hours of grueling treatment, countless tears shed, and countless moments of paralyzing fear. But they had made it. Dylan had made it. When can he ring the bell? Emma asked, her voice thick with emotion. "How about right now?" Dr. Chun suggested, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Let's go make some noise. Share this video with anyone who's ever waited for a miracle and had it actually arrive." The bell-ringing ceremony was scheduled for 3 o'clock that afternoon, giving Emma just enough time to make a flurry of important phone calls. She called Judge Caprio first. "He's cancer-free. He's ringing the bell today at 3 o'clock. "I'll be there," the judge said without any hesitation. "I wouldn't miss this for the world." She called Mrs. Patterson, who shrieked with delight. She called Carlos, her former manager from McDonald's, who had become like a big brother to her. She called friends, teachers, relatives, everyone who had been a part of their challenging, yet ultimately triumphant, journey. At 3 p.m., the pediatric oncology hallway was overflowing with people. Dylan stood proudly in front of the bell, wearing his Medal of Courage and a t-shirt that boldly proclaimed, "Cancer tried to break me, but I'm unbreakable." Emma stood beside him, her hand resting gently on his shoulder. Rosa stood on his other side, tears of joy already streaming down her face. Judge Caprio had arrived, accompanied by Patricia DeLeo and Court Officer Chun, both of whom had followed Dylan's story and grown to love the brave little boy. Local news cameras were also present, having heard about the bell ringing and recognizing the significance of the story. Dr. Chun gave a brief, heartfelt speech about Dylan's incredible courage and unwavering determination. Then she turned to the 8-year-old. Dylan, you have fought the hardest battle anyone could possibly face, and you won. You are a warrior. You are a champion. And now, it's time to tell the world. Ring that bell as loud as you can. Hit subscribe if you believe triumph is sweetest after the hardest battles. Dylan reached up and firmly grasped the bell's rope with both hands. He glanced at Emma, who nodded encouragingly. He looked at Rosa, who blew him a loving kiss. He looked at Judge Caprio, who gave him a respectful salute. Then, with every ounce of strength in his small body, Dylan pulled that rope. The bell rang out, loud and clear and triumphant. Once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. Dylan continued ringing the bell, laughing and crying simultaneously, and the hallway erupted in thunderous applause and cheers. The nurses who had cared for him were openly sobbing. The doctors were clapping enthusiastically. Other patients and their families joined in the joyous celebration, because in that pediatric oncology unit, everyone understood the profound significance of that bell. Emma pulled Dylan into a fierce embrace, both of them crying openly. You did it, buddy. You beat it. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. Judge Caprio approached them, his face glistening with tears. Dylan Rodriguez, you are without question the bravest person I have ever met. You kept your promise. You fought. You won. And now we're going to celebrate. Like this video if you've ever witnessed a moment of pure joy that reminded you why hope matters. The celebration that followed was everything Dylan deserved and more. A local restaurant generously donated a private room for a celebratory party. The Providence community, which had followed Dylan's journey through Emma's powerful story, showed up in force, showering him with gifts, heartfelt cards, and boundless love. Dylan was surrounded by his classmates, his dedicated medical team, his extended family, and even strangers who had become like family through their shared experiences and unwavering support. Judge Caprio gave a touching toast that had everyone reaching for tissues. 1 year ago, I met a teenage girl who was drowning under the immense weight of impossible circumstances. She showed me what true courage truly looks like. She showed me what family truly means. And through her, I met this remarkable little boy who taught me that the human spirit is stronger than any disease. The judge raised his glass of grape juice, Dylan's favorite drink. To Dylan Rodriguez, cancer-free. To Emma Rodriguez, Brown University student and future world changer. To Rosa Rodriguez, the strongest grandmother in Rhode Island. And to all of us who have been blessed to witness this incredible journey. May we always remember that in a world that often feels cruel and unjust, love always wins. Always. The room echoed in response. Drop your final comment below, sharing what this story meant to you. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another story of hope, justice, and the human spirit's unwavering refusal to give up. Share this video with someone who needs a reminder that miracles still happen, that communities still care, and that love still conquers all.